Welcome to another show. Hey, let's look at the 4 versions of Nosferatu that exist on this show today. For part 1 of this show, we're going back over 100 years to look at one of the greatest horror movies of the silent era, indeed, of all time. F.W. Murnau's now classic Nosferatu. Nosferatu was produced by Prana Film and is an unauthorized and unofficial adaptation of Bram Stoker's 1897 novel Dracula. Various names and other details were changed from the novel, including Count Dracula being renamed Count Orlok, then finally Nosferatu, an archaic Romanian word with a suggested etymology of Nesferit, meaning the offensive one. Although those changes are often represented as a defense against copyright infringement, the original German intertitles acknowledged Dracula as the source. Film historian David Kellett states in his commentary track that since the film was a low-budget film made by Germans for German audiences, setting it in Germany with German-named characters, that makes the story more tangible and immediate for German-speaking viewers. Even with several details altered, Stoker's heirs sued over the adaptation, and a court ruling ordered all copies of the film to be destroyed. However, several prints of Nosferatu survived, and the film came to be regarded as an influential masterpiece of cinema and the horror genre. Critic and film historian Kim Newman declared it as a film that set the template for the genre of horror. In 1838, in the fictional German town of Wisburg, Thomas Hutter is sent to Transylvania by his employer, estate agent Herzog, to visit a new client, Count Orlok, who is planning on buying a house across from Hutter's own residence. While embarking on his journey, Hutter stops at the inn in which the locals are frightened by mere mention of Orlok's name. The film stars Max Schreck as Count Orlok, Gustav von Wagenheim as Thomas Hutter, Greta Schroeder as Ellen Hutter, and George H. Schnell as Harding. Nosferatu has been noted for its themes regarding fear of the other, as well as for possible anti-Semitic undertones, both of which may have been partially derived from Bram Stoker's novel Dracula, upon which the film was based. The physical appearance of Count Orlok, with his hooked nose, long claw-like fingernails, and large bald head, has been compared to stereotypical caricatures of Jewish people from the time in which Nosferatu was produced. His features have also been compared to those of a rat or a mouse, the former of which Jews were often equated with. Orlok's interest in acquiring property in the German town of Weisburg, a shift in locale from the Stoker novel's London, has also been analyzed as preying on the fears and anxieties of the German public at the time. Professor Tony Magistral wrote that the film's depiction of an invasion of the German homeland by an outside force poses disquieting parallels to the anti-Semitic atmosphere festering in Northern Europe in 1922. Nosferatu brought Murnau into the public eye, especially when his film Der Brecher was released a few days later. The press reported extensively on Nosferatu at its premiere. With the laudatory votes, there was also occasional criticism that the technical perfections and clarity of the image did not fit the horror theme. The film courier of 6 March 1922 said that the vampire appeared too corporeal and brightly lit to appear genuinely scary. Hans Willenberg described the film in Photo Stage No. 11 of 11 March 1922 as a sensation and praised Murnau's nature shots as mood-creating elements. In the Vossche Zeltag of 7 March 1922, Nosferatu was praised for its visual style. Nosferatu was also the first film to show a vampire dying from exposure to sunlight. Previous vampire novels, such as Dracula, had shown them being uncomfortable with sunlight, but not undeath-threateningly so.
Get back! I am a priest!
The television miniseries adaptation of Stephen King's Salem's Lot took inspiration from Nosferatu for the appearance of its villain, Kurt Barlow. The film's producer, Richard Cobrit, stated that, "We went back to the old German Nosferatu concept, where he is the essence of evil, and not anything romantic or smarmy, or, the rogue-cheeked, widow-peaked Dracula."
Did I kill some of your people, Murnau? I can't remember.
We have an arrangement!
The 2000 film Shadow of the Vampire, directed by E. Elias Merid and written by Stephen A. Katz, is a fictionalized account of the making of Nosferatu, in which Max Schreck is portrayed by an actual vampire, whom F.W. Murnau allows to kill his actors and crew on film in order to create a sense of realism. It stars Willem Dafoe as Schreck and John Malkovich as Murnau. The film was nominated for 2 Academy Awards at the 73rd Academy Awards. William Dafoe returns to the world of Nosferatu with the 2024 remake. Did you know that the movie was banned in Sweden due to excessive horror? The ban wouldn't be lifted until 1972. After more than 100 years, virtually all of the exteriors are still intact in the cities of Wismar and Lübeck. The character of Count Orlok doesn't appear until 21 minutes into the film and is only seen on screen for a bit less than 9 minutes in total throughout the entire film.
Werner Herzog's new film, Nosferatu the Vampire, which is one of the most stylish and sympathetic versions of Dracula that I think I've ever seen.
It could give you blood poisoning. Please, let me do it. It's the oldest remedy in the world.
Klaus Kinski stars as the tragic and bloodthirsty Count who invites a real estate agent over for dinner.
The film would be remade in 1979. Phantom of the Night is a gothic horror film, directed and written by Werner Herzog. The film serves as both a remake of the 1922 film, Nosferatu, and an adaptation of Bram Stoker's 1897 novel Dracula. Herzog's film is set in 19th century Wismar, Germany, and Transylvania. The picture stars Klaus Kinski as Count Dracula, Isabella Adjani as Lucy Harker, Bruno Ganz as Jonathan Harker, and French artist-writer Roland Topor as Renfield. There are 2 different versions of the film, one in which the actors speak English, and one in which they speak German. And did you know that there was a sequel?
Nosferatu, Fürst der Hölle, gib dich uns zu erkennen!
Well, the 1988 Italian horror film Nosferatu in Venice is a sequel in name only, and again it features Klaus Kinski in the title role. Herzog considered Murnau's Nosferatu to be the greatest film ever to come out of Germany, and was eager to make his own version of the film. In 1979, by the very day the copyright for Dracula had entered the public domain, Herzog proceeded with the updated version of the classic German film, which could now include the original character names. Herzog saw his film as a parable about the fragility of order in a staid bourgeois town. It is more than a horror film, he says. Nosferatu is not a monster, but an ambivalent, masterful force of change. When the plague threatens, people throw their property into the streets. They discard their bourgeois trappings. A reevaluation of life and its meaning takes place. Adjani said about her heroine, "There's a sexual element. She is gradually attracted towards Nosferatu. She feels a fascination, as we all would think. First, she hopes to save the people of the town by sacrificing herself. But then, there's a moment of transition. There is a scene where he is sucking her blood, sucking and sucking like an animal, and suddenly, her face takes on a new expression. A sexual one, and she will not let him go away anymore. There is a desire that has been born. A moment like this has never been seen in a vampire picture, according to Kinski. We see Dracula as sympathetically. He is a man without free will. He cannot choose, and he cannot cease to be. He is a kind of incarnation of evil, but he is also a man who is suffering for love. This makes it so much more dramatic, more double-edged. In contemporary reviews, the film is noted for maintaining an element of horror, with numerous deaths and a grim atmosphere. Still, it features a more expanded plot than many Dracula productions, with a greater emphasis on the vampire's tragic loneliness. Dracula is still a ghastly figure, but with a greater sense of pathos. Weary, unloved, and doomed to immortality. Reviewer John J. Pushy of MovieMet considers it a faithful homage to Murnau's original film, significantly updating the original material and avoiding the danger of being overly derivative. Klaus Kinski had to spend approximately 4 hours per day in makeup. Fresh latex earpiece pieces had to be poured for each day of shooting because they were destroyed at removal. Kinski, notorious for his violent daily temper tantrums, had a very good relationship with Japanese makeup artist Reiko Kruk, and was exceedingly patient and well-behaved during makeup. Kinski himself said of the makeup that he hated being excessively made up for a role, but for the role of Dracula it was important, so he took it in stride. Kinski was so disturbed by his appearance in the makeup that he avoided looking in any mirrors during filming. It should be noted that in order to get the restrained performance out of Klaus Kinski that Werner desired, he reused a trick from the making of Aguirre, The Wrath of God from 1972. While Kinski wanted to play Dracula as more energetic, Herzog would provoke Kinski into a massive tantrum, so he would become exhausted when it came time to shoot his scenes. And it has been stated by Werner Herzog that the rats that appear in the film behave better than Klaus Kinski during the shoot. And speaking of those rats, they were subjected to terrible treatment. Herzog wanted them to be gray, but they were all white lab rats, so he dyed them the color he wanted, which resulted in them being put in boiling water for a time, and over half of them died. And then some of them were starved to the point where they started feeding on each other. Very bad conditions for the rats in that film. The exceedingly difficult slow-motion shots of a bat in flight were not shot by Werner Herzog's crew, but borrowed from a scientific documentary. Bet you didn't know that. Werner Herzog could not film in Wismar, where the original Murnau film was shot, so he relocated production to Delft, Netherlands. Part of the films were shot in nearby Schiedam after the Delft authorities refused to allow Herzog to release 11,000 rats for a scene in the film. Dracula's home is represented by locations in Czechoslovakia. Herzog originally intended to film in Transylvania, but Nicolae Ceausescu's regime would not allow it due to the relation between the character of Count Dracula and Vlad the Impaler. Ernsten Castle stands in for Castle Dracula in the film, both interiors and exteriors. Herzog himself filmed the opening sequence at the Mummies of Guanajuato Museum in central Mexico, in the colonial city of Guanajuato, about 200 miles northwest of Mexico City, where a large number of naturally mummified bodies of the victims of an 1833 cholera epidemic are on public display. Robert Englund says he based his performance as Freddy Krueger on A Nightmare on Elm Street on Klaus Kinski's performance. This is one of 5 Dracula movies made and released around 1979.
She is Nocturna.
I'm the granddaughter of Count Dracula.
I love you, and I can give you eternal life.
I knew it, an insurance salesman. I've already got Prudential.
The films are Dracula with Frank Langella, Nosferatu the Vampire, Love at First Bite, Nocturna, and Dracula Blows His Cool. Also from 1979 were the vampire movies Thirst and Salem's Lot.
You will remain and well rest yourself.
I must object, my lord.
You will obey.
And now we come to the version that is in theaters now. Nosferatu is a 2024 American Gothic horror film written and directed by Robert Eggers. It is a remake of the 1922 silent film of the same name, which was an unauthorized adaptation of Bram Stoker's 1897 novel Dracula, which we've already looked at the beginning of this video. The film features an ensemble cast including Bill Skarsgård, Nicholas Hoult, Lily Rose Depp, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Emma Corrin, Ralph Ineson, Simon McBurney, and Willem Dafoe, making his second trip to Nosferatu land. Seeking companionship, a young Ellen prays for any spirit to bring her love, only to be attacked by a beastly vision, causing her to have a seizure. In 1838, an adult Ellen lives in the town of Wisburg, Germany, with her husband Thomas Hutter, an estate agent, hoping to gain more financial security. Thomas accepts a commission from his employer, Herr Nock, to sell Schloss Grunwald, a decrepit, stately home in Wisburg, to the reclusive and eccentric Count Orlok. Unknown to Thomas, Nock made this arrangement as part of an occult pact with Orlok. Principal photography began in the Czech Republic on February 20th, 2023, filming taking place at Barrandov Studios in Prague by March. Later that month, the crew was shooting on location at the 14th century Rozmatal Pod, and forgive me if I'm not pronouncing this right, Tremsinum Castle in Rozmatal Pod, Tremsinum. Also, Prague's Invalidovna complex, a Baroque building registered as a national landmark. Some exterior shots were captured in Corvin Castle in Romania. Cinematographer Jaron Blaschke said that the film was shot in color and was reminiscent of 19th century Romanticism. Filming wrapped on May 19th, 2023.
He intends to purchase a residence in our fair city, and he wishes for you to deliver all the papers to him personally.
There is one other version of Nosferatu, a lesser-known 2023 release starring Doug Jones as Count Orlok and directed by David Lee Fisher. This film used green screen to insert colorized backgrounds from the original film atop live action, a process Fisher previously used for his remake of The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. This was successfully funded on Kickstarter on December 2014. It took 10 years to be released alongside the Robert Eggers version. This version is actually now streaming on Amazon if you want to check that out. And that was our show for today. Did you know about all 4 of these versions of Nosferatu? Which one was your favorite? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. And while you're at it, I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel, click the bell to stay informed, and check out my Carl Vincent Vampire Hunter franchise also in the comments section. Until next time, this is Kevin Gibbons saying, live long and prosper, may the force be with you, and keep reaching for the stars.